Welcome back to ASBR's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Greg. This is a huge fight, Greg. One of the ones that was kind of being talked about, and then it got announced, and it's been delayed due to an injury. But now we're finally getting it. We are, of course, talking about Stephen Fulton against Naoya Inoue on the July 25th, for the WBC and WBO Super Bantamweight titles. Absolutely cracking fight. Obviously, Inoue stepping up from bantamweight, where he was undisputed in the division, and moving up, daring to be great now up at 122 pounds. And just before we kind of touch on our betting tips and predictions, Greg, what a fight this is!
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, Paul. Fantastic fight. It's really one of the guys the above weight that Inoue is stepping up to fight. There's not a lot of pounds of difference when you step up at those weights, but it's still a step up. And Fulton looks a really, really talented fighter, and I think that it's very well much could be the toughest fight of Inoue's career. So it's a fight I'm really looking forward to, Paul.
Yeah, me too, mate. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Toughest fight of Inoue's career, no doubt. Probably the toughest fight of Fulton's career as well. You could say it's definitely the toughest fight of both men's careers. Inoue obviously stepping up another weight division. Fulton holds the two WBC and WBO belts at the minute. And yeah, this is just it's a cracking fight. I'm saying first off, before we get into it, I want to say like fair play to Inoue. He could easily have stepped up and maybe had one tune up at super bantamweight first, but he's gone straight in there for the number one in the division, and you can only take your hat off to him. Greg, we're in Kodoku at the Ariake Arena. Probably butchered that, but yeah, Fulton traveling. Yes, he has the belts. Yes, he's the champion, but he's traveling to Inoue's backyard. Everything kind of against him. On an initial look at the betting odds and the markets, is there anything that's kind of jumped out at you?
Yeah, so I think your pronunciation would probably be better than anything I could do there, Paul, so don't give yourself a hard time. I think it shows balls on Fulton. I don't think he cares about going to Japan. I think if you know you're a really good fighter, you don't care where you fight. You like to have the crowd on your side, but I think when you're at an elite level, you'll go anywhere. So fair play to Fulton, like you say. Um, I think it could be a really tricky affair, Paul. I don't think Inoue will steamroll his way through the way he's steamrolled other opponents. And one thing that jumps out at me is the betting odds that I've seen online today, because I've been checking them the past few days. Naoya Inoue to win in points is currently 2-1. I think we could be looking at a fight that would go the distance here with it being in Japan. I think Fulton might tire late because he's going to have razor concentration to stop Inoue from getting to him. So I think 2-1 on Naoya Inoue to win in points is really good value.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I kind of think that yeah, you look at Inoue. I think he's 24-0, didn't you say? And 21 stoppages. He's only really gone the distance a few times. And yeah, he looks like he's steamrolled the vast majority of his opponents. But again, this is an entirely different proposition. And I had kind of have to agree with you. And I'm echoing what you say in the sense that I think this fight could be nip and tuck. I don't think whoever wins, will win every round of the fight. I think there could be moments for both. You're siding with Inoue to win on points. I'm gonna disagree with you on this one, and I'm gonna side with Fulton to win via decision. And the odds I'm seeing, just kind of as soon as I looked, they just jumped out at me. 9-2 for Fulton to win on points is sensational value in my opinion. I think that if he is to win this Fulton, it will be on points. I can't see him stopping Inoue. He's not a huge puncher himself. Plus he'll be wary of Inoue's big shots as well. But I think Fulton on points. I remember a few years back before Fulton was world champion. I remember Carl Frampton, as he was coming to the end of his career, mentioned how he'd been sparring with this guy called Stephen Fulton, and that he was a future world champion, and that he was so slick and he could do everything. When nobody really knew about him, myself included, and now look where he is. I think Stephen Fulton, yeah, I think the name like that Figueroa win, as you mentioned, that's an incredible win because Figueroa has stepped up to featherweight now and is, without having a belt, is arguably the best featherweight on the planet. Some people may argue. So having a win over him, yes, it was close, but I don't see any reason why he can't win this one against the Inoue as well. He has all of the size, reach advantages. Probably, well, would he have a power advantage? Probably not. even though he is that naturally bigger man. Just Inoue is a bit of a freak puncher, isn't he? Um,
Yeah.
but I'm there's something telling me that Stephen Fulton to win on points here. That's kind of the one that jumped out at me. Just in terms of value. Am I 100% confident in my prediction? No, absolutely not. You can't be when you're backing against the New of course. But I just think at 9-2, there's incredible value there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Paul. The first two bets that jumped out at me were both guys to win in points, and I think that Fulton is very, very capable, and he's definitely a guy I think is capable of beating Inoue. I just look at the whole thing of it being in Japan, and you know that can work. I suppose that can work both ways, Paul. He could feel too much pressure Inoue before he knows it. He's 7 rounds to 2 down, and he finds himself needing a stoppage. So yeah, but if I can jump on, the only other bet that I seen there that I thought was of good value is, and this might back up a little bit of what you say. So you're picking Fulton possibly to win in points at 7-2. The other value that I seen was for Naoya Inoue to win in rounds 7-12 is currently 5-2. What's to say that Fulton's ahead in the fight and Inoue finds himself having to start chasing it, and it looks as though he's got plenty of years to go through. Inoue still, even against guys like Paul Butler, he just looked as though he was toying at times. So what's to say that he's behind and he has to up his game against Fulton? Fulton's exhausted, and Inoue takes him out late in the fight. I think 5-2 is good value on that.
Yeah, see, I think if and obviously I'm saying Fulton decision's my betting tip, but if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking if Inoue is to win this, I know you give a case for points, and I completely agree to a certain degree, but I'm thinking Fulton's going to have to be on it for 36 minutes here, whereas Inoue just needs, he needs that one shot really that could end it at any time. And if he is going to stop, if Inoue is to get the stoppage and add another knockout to his resume, I probably do see it being late. So I would, if I was backing Inoue to win via stoppage, I would definitely say it later on. The only other thing I would mention, obviously, I mentioned Fulton to win via decision at 9-2. I said obviously, and you alluded to as well, Greg, that Fulton isn't a huge puncher. But for him just to win 7-2, so if you kind of want to detract that risk from it, if you think Fulton's going to win and you want to take the risk away, you maybe think that you know what he could stop him. He's a lot bigger than Inoue. Well, then I think it's 7-2 just to win. Obviously, with the 9-2 in decision, there's great value if you're put it this way, if you're backing the champion, and he wins, you're going to make a lot of money on the night. But yeah, absolutely cracking fight, Greg. Any final thoughts?
It's just a fight I'm really looking forward to. My gut tells me at the moment I think Inoue might hurt him to the body, and that's where the fight will change in the second half of the fight. But it's a fight that's very difficult to call. I think you've got to fancy Inoue as the favourite, but overall, I don't think there's any certainties in this fight, Paul, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely cracking fight, mate. Can't wait for it. Tuesday boxing as well while we're at work, sitting and watching it at work. Unbelievable. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think there's other value in the fight? Let us know in the comments, and whether you agree with Greg, whether you agree with myself. And we've got loads of other content coming on the YouTube channel as well. Cheers, Greg.
Thank you, Paul.